Good morning, Santa Margarita. On today's show, we'll have sports reports with Macy and Malia, an interview with Coach Mercedes, and a segment on the history of volleyball with Greer. Buckle up for this wild ride, Eagles.
What's up, SM? I'm Brody Farron.
And I'm Mason Farber.
Today we have a great show for you guys.
Yes, we do, Brody. But first, how are you doing, Brody?
I'm doing great, Mason. How about you?
I'm doing great, Brody. We're going to have a great show.
Yes, we are. And to start it off, we have an interview with Coach Mercedes.
Hello, Eagles. I'm here with Coach Mercedes, my very own varsity tennis coach. We're going to be going over her career, and things that she's done, and what she's now doing at SM. Let's cut it over to that. So for those who don't know, you actually were a professional motocross rider. You won 9 national championships, so you weren't only a rider, but you were a great rider. Can you talk a little bit about your career?
Yeah, I started racing motocross at the age of about 7, and then didn't really get serious about it till I was about 15 years old. Started racing more of the higher events and entered my first national as an expert. Won that class, went professional the next year after that, and I raced till I was about 26 years old.
So, Coach, your career didn't really start in coaching tennis. In fact, it was a polar opposite of a sport. It was motocross. So, could you tell me a little bit about how you took motocross and put that into coaching tennis?
A lot of what I learned coaching motocross does translate, even though it seems like it wouldn't. Really, a lot of sport is the same. It's dedication, drive, practicing hard, and being able to focus during competition and applying all those things you do to get a good outcome.
Coach, thank you so much for being on with me today. That's all for now. Sending it back to the studio.
Wow, I really enjoyed listening to Coach Mercedes.
Me too. I love learning about sports.
Oh, what's your favorite sport, Brody?
I'm going to have to go with basketball for sure, but I've been getting pretty into hockey lately.
Well, it's your lucky day, Brody. Next up, we have a hockey sports report with Macy.
Eagles, I'm Macy Burnaby. Today we're going to be reviewing this past Wednesday's Stanley Cup Playoffs Round 2 between Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. The Canucks beat the Oilers by 1 goal in the third period. The Oilers did pretty well in the first round against the Los Angeles Kings, winning 4 out of 5 games, while the Canucks beat the Nashville Predators 4 games to 2. Zach Hyman scored the first goal for Edmonton only a couple minutes into the first period. The Oilers followed up with another goal. Starting off the second period, the Canucks got their first goal of the game from Dakota Joshua. The Oilers quickly responded with 2 goals of their own in the last minutes of the second period. Elias Lindholm scored for Vancouver, making the score 4-2. Into the third period, JT Miller scored the first goal of the period. The Canucks scored 3 unanswered goals to wrap up the game with a final score of 5-4. Well, SM, that's all I've got for this sports update. I'm Macy Burnaby, sending it back to Mason and Brody.
Wow, the playoffs are really heating up.
I couldn't agree more, Brody. Speaking of the playoffs, who do you think is going to win the championship?
It's hard to say, but I think the Timberwolves are going to take it.
I think the Pacers are going to win.
No way. Well, we're going to talk a little more about basketball later in the show, but first I wanted to ask if you know anything about volleyball.
I know barely anything about volleyball, but luckily, we have Greer here to tell us all about the history of it.
Volleyball is loved worldwide, played by more than 900 million people around the world. From the NCAA to the USAV, there are hundreds of associations around the world that's main objective is the sport. Volleyball first came to be in 1895, being invented by William G. Morgan, the physical education director of the YMCA in Holyoke, Massachusetts. The game was designed for those who found basketball too vigorous and preferred indoor over outdoor sports. Volleyball is a team sport where 2 teams of 6 compete on opposite sides of a net, trying to kill off the ball on the opponent's side and compile points to get the win. The game consists of passing, setting, and hitting with various positions such as outside hitter, middle blocker, opposite hitter, setter, libero, and defensive specialist. There are many rules in volleyball, but the most prominent is, when serving, do not step in front of the end line. If libero hits, they may not jump in front of the 10-foot line, but are able to land in front of it. And when hitting or blocking in front of the 10-foot line, you may not touch the net. In present day, millions of children in America, from the ages of 5 to 15, play volleyball as their first sport, but many do not pursue it professionally because of its rigorous criteria of the NCAA to play in college. Overall, the fast-paced game is greatly loved by spectators, players, coaches, and more.
The history of volleyball is so cool.
I know, right? I'm gonna start playing volleyball.
Me too. We should play volleyball sometime.
Let's do it. But first, the time has finally come. Let's send it over to Malia for an NBA update.
What's up, Eagles? I'm Malia Mazer, and today I'm here to give you a recap on the second round of the NBA playoffs. First up, we have the 5th-seeded Dallas Mavericks taking on the 1st-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder. At the end of the first quarter, Jalen Williams goes up for a dunk and is rejected by Daniel Gafford. At the other end of the court, Gafford banks it home off the pass from Derrick Jones Jr.'s Dante Entum, then goes in for a layup, but is met by Chet Holmgren. At the start of the second quarter, Kyrie knocks down the pull-up jumper. After a Doncic miss, Wallace recovers the ball and takes it up the court with a euro. Misses the layup, but Holmgren cleans it up. Shortly after, Jones Jr. responds with the three. Holmgren then uses a skyhook for the deuce. OKC goes on to win Game 1, 117-95. Sending it over to the East, we have the 6th-seeded Indiana Pacers facing the 2nd-seeded New York Knicks. In the middle of the first quarter, Halliburton uses his unique shooting form to knock down a much-needed three. Jalen Brunson then responds with a made contested three. In the second quarter, Isaiah Jackson gets the pass and gets called for an and one. To start the second half, DiVincenzo hits a deep three. DiVincenzo then cuts to the basket and slams it home for the easy bucket. The Knicks end up coming back and winning Game 2, 130-121, to take a 2-0 lead on the Pacers. Well, that's all I have today for you, Eagles. I'm Leah Mazer, sending it back to Mason and Brody.
Wild sport. It's so intense and fun to watch.
Yeah, I love going to games.
We should go to a game sometime.
Let's do it, Brody.
Well, Santa Margarita, that's all I have for you today. I'm Brody Farron.
And I'm Mason Farber. Have a great rest of your week, Eagles.